The mailman doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you like what you're hearing, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Leave that 5-star review. You do that, and we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, there is a lot to get through. We're basically done with the first round of the playoffs. The Lakers have fired Darvin Ham. What's next for them? What's next for the likes of the Bucks, the Suns, the 76ers? We're going to get into all of that. Before we do, though, Chris, it's been a hot minute. How you doing?
It's good. I haven't slept, and that's fine. I've squeezed as much basketball as I could in the last 10 hours just catching up on everything, and I'm excited to talk about all the things that have happened because this seems like we kind of previewed it before coming to the playoffs, but this seems like a really fascinating turning point, not just for a lot of these teams, but for the league as a whole. Like, we're seeing so many new faces. We're seeing kind of the end of times for some of our favorite players. We've already seen it for the Warriors, maybe. Now, just thinking about the Lakers, what's going to happen there, as we've touched on, and the Bucks as well, like, maybe changes there. So there's just so much change that have happened, not just in the context of the playoffs and the first round ending pretty much here. Got one more game between the Cavs and Magic. That's also a fascinating series if people are missing out on that. But it's good, man. This is a great time to be an NBA fan, and great time to look at the now and look back and look forward. Like, this is such a great time to be an NBA fan.
Every old-timer team is out of the playoffs. Every old-timer team.
Break that down for me. Break that down for me, because that's the general sense I've been having, and I haven't quantified it to the point where every old-time team is
Warriors are gone.
They're gone.
Do we call the Heat gone? Will we call the Heat old-timer? Not really. So we got Warriors gone, Lakers gone, Suns, they're kind of in the middle because obviously they still have Booker, but they're kind of an old-time team. Clippers gone. And I guess if you want to look at the Bucks as well as an old-timer team, that's the 5 of them gone there.
Yeah.
Like Celtics have been around a while, but they're still a pretty young team. Similar with the Nuggets, you know.
And even thinking about the Kings not being there, the Kings did not advance. They did not progress from last year. We didn't see that. I wouldn't even dare call the the outskirts too have changed too. Like, we've not seen the outskirts of the East come in. We don't see the Hawks in there. We don't see the Bulls in there, and then the West. But let's start somewhere here. There's so much to go for. You touched on the Lakers.
Yeah.
Who do we want to touch on first?
We gotta go. We gotta go with the Knicks. I mean, what a series that was against the 76ers. That series, that's in recent memory, that's going to be one of the best first round series that we've had in a long time. And I know it didn't go to 7 games, but over the course of the 6 games, it was just an absolute slugfest. The Knicks won the game overall by 1 point. They scored 1 more total point than the 76ers did in that series. And that's just a testament to what a battle that it was. And Embiid is only playing on one leg. The Knicks don't have Julius Randle, then they lose Bogdanovic. There's little things going on through every game. Dante DiVincenzo forgets how to play up until the very last game when we really needed him, and then he stepped up. But goddamn, Jalen Brunson just put together the series that he just played is full on. That's Michael Jordan, LeBron James level sort of series. That's how good it was.
Okay, chill.
I'm not saying he's at their level, but that's what they do in the playoffs, and that's what this series was.
Well, the reason I'm telling you to chill is because the first question I had for you is I knew you were gonna bring up Brunson, and the way he played those last few games were tremendous, amazing. And my question was like, how worried were you after those first couple games that
Right.
like, oh, see, there was a level of worry, and I was kind of seeing it too. Like after the first game, it's like, okay, he's just kind of missing those shots. He's still, looks a little uncomfortable, but he'll figure it out. After game two, it's like, okay, they're really making him uncomfortable, and then he just like came back to life. And who knows? I mean, there's so much variance, and it's a make or miss league, whether it goes in, whether it doesn't. And he was still getting to his spot, so I think that's what matters. But we gotta chill on the
I mean,
gotta chill
like
on the Michael
it
Jordan,
was
LeBron.
it was
Like
great. I'm not saying it
I'm
was at
so
their
happy
level.
for the first round. We gotta relax. We gotta relax.
That's the level of performance that they deliver. Okay, fine. We'll compare them to like same or like we'll say like Luka Doncic or
Fine.
Steph Curry. Is that okay or whatever? I don't know. All right, but anyway, close out that series. 39 points, 13 assists, 47 points, 10 assists. A Knicks playoff record. 40 points, 6 assists. 41 points, 12 assists, and shot 47% or better in each of those games after combining for 29% in the first two games. Like the adjustments that he made, the perseverance to figure it out, to the Knicks obviously probably made some adjustments to help get more switches, but they were making him really uncomfortable with all the size they were putting on him, and he figured it out and just showed the level of basketball IQ that he has and just the level of grit and determination to be the best as well. And it was just awesome. And I can just in that, like we blew that game 5. Tyrese Maxey, respect it.
That was
You were unbelievable. Unbelievable. But the Knicks blew that. And it was so funny in game 6 because they obviously thought they were going to do it again. And they were 6 points up, and what happened? They failed straight away. they weren't gonna leave that option open again. They failed straight away, and they ultimately closed it out, having blown a 22-point first half lead. And then when they were down by I think 10, they were kind of midway through the third. I was kind of worried. I was like, okay, we kind of used up all our juice here. Then Devo came back to life. Brunson started to hit some shots, and thankfully it all came together. And like Josh Hart, major respects to him. After he missed that free throw in game 5, he came out and basically just goes, "Yeah, I fucked up. It's not going to happen again." In game 6, he went 3 of 3 from the free throw line and hit that massive 3-point shot. He said he was going to deliver, and he did. And you just got to enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend another 15 minutes talking about Josh Hart, like the contribution he made, the way he impacted the game, and just had some of the best shooting nights of his life in the series. Was just, it can't be understated. And it was his, like, I think it's no exaggeration from what we talked about, like 1 point that like when you go down the stretch, this series was decided by very small margins. Josh Hart is probably the hero of the series because we expected Jalen Brunson to get that point. He needed to get to that point. But this was going to be a tough series if you give up home court advantage in game 1. That was going to be tough. Josh Hart coming in to save the day there was just probably the best moment of his career, easily.
Yeah.
The hottest shooting streak in a game of his career, easily. But just hats off to him, and hats off to how the whole team just embodies that level of intensity. And I think we can continue to go on this Knicks parade as we preview them for the Pacers. But going on to the 76ers, who yet again go into an offseason with questions rather than answers, with doubts rather than success. And it's really tough after another consecutive season where Embiid is one of the best. I mean, one of 2 considered for MVP, gets hurt, comes back, still hobbled, but still, man, just everyone's got to respect Embiid. And I know there's a lot of Embiid hate, dirty plays, whatever. Like, he is a guy that competes and he fights through the injuries that he's been so unlucky to deal with in his career. And I really hate this noise about, is this Maxey's team now? Like, stop. That needs to stop. Just full stop. We don't even have to discuss that. The idea that is this Maxey's team, it's ridiculous.
What you got to look at is look at the Denver Nuggets. Whose team is it? It's Nikola
Yes.
Jokic's.
Yes.
Who hit the game-winning shots? It's Jamal Murray's.
Yes,
You need
exactly.
the
Thank
perfect
you.
balance. You
Yes,
need that
thank you.
balance. Yeah, maybe Embiid does it for the 3 quarters and then Maxey takes over the 4th. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's not Joel Embiid's team. That's
Exactly. We
just the
don't have to
dynamic
do
that they
that.
have.
Yeah, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do like no. Those players don't do it. We don't need to do it, and that just takes away from it. And just to touch on that game, like that was, even though the 76ers don't pull out of this series, their most improved player of the year, Tyrese Maxey, who's shown us he is not just a really great burgeoning young player. Like, he's a star. He's a star player, and he brought it against a really good Knicks team. And everyone's got to be at least happy moving into the next season, knowing that he can show it in a playoff series, knowing that he can like down the clutch, like that one win they have, like that's Tyrese Maxey. Like what he did there is just insane, and how he played against a really gritty backcourt of the Knicks, who's going to challenge him every single night. He performed. So I think that the 76ers are going to be happy about that. They can be, I guess, moderately happy that Embiid was still able to play through injury. It sucks that it had to be like this, but I think they know that they need answers from the other guys. And where was Buddy Hield? Where was Tobias Harris?
Buddy Hield didn't show up until the last game, and then I was like, "Oh my God, is his dick really gonna do this? The last game, he's gonna go for like 7 3-pointers," and he pushed it. He tried hard. I was a little bit surprised that they waited so long to bring him back in the second half. They had Tobias Harris out there, who, remember, he shot 1 shot in Game 6, and he had 0 points, and yet he still managed to get more minutes than Buddy Hield, who had completely dragged the team out of the abyss with his 3-point shooting. Give him a shot. Like, I'm not saying they could put him in the whole thing, because defensively, obviously that's an issue. But I was a little surprised that he didn't get more minutes with the hot hand that he did have during that game. But yeah, Tobias Harris, if we didn't know it already, we know it after this playoff series. Yeah. He is leaving Philadelphia, and he is gonna get absolute crumbs compared to the last contract that he got.
Well, he'll be living well after that, I'm sure. But definitely a conversation for the off season. They're in the top 5 in cap space, depending on what they do in this off season. They can make some serious changes, and hopefully they've used this season to kind of show that Embiid needs more help. Obviously, not ideal with James Harden leaving in the middle of the season, but hopefully things change for the better for them.
I say bring back if Nick Batum wants to keep it going, and bring him back, and Kelly Oubre as well. I bring Kelly Oubre back. I think he showed enough.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that. So looking forward, Knicks and Pacers. Pacers, who got not lucky, they took care of business. Let's just say that. We'll leave it at that. They took care of business, and maybe even before we get into it, we just give our hats off to Chris Middleton. You can't really say much about the Bucks. It sucks that we didn't get a healthy series between them and them and the Bucks, Pacers and the Bucks, where they've shown that that's such a good competition there. They're even when both teams are healthy. But Chris Middleton, a guy who's been just struggling all season to really get back into form. Dude played 38 minutes a game in the series, and 25 points, 9.2 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 35.5% on threes on 5.2 attempts, and those are tough shots. And all his other mid-rangers, those are tough shots. You're shooting almost 50% on those, 90% from the line. I mean, this guy performed. He did his best. You just saw how broken down he was at the end because he just couldn't pull it out. But hey, like that's not his role.
He was playing hurt as well. I've been a big guy that's questioning Chris Middleton a lot. Does he still have that juice in him? And like, he showed that he did. Yeah, obviously if they're healthy, he wouldn't have to have done that. But if he's still capable of doing that, then he's more than capable of still playing that third wheel for this Milwaukee team. And that game 3, he was close to going full Superman mode and pulling that out for that team. Like, that was like, those shots that he made were absolutely insane. I don't know how he dropped not just 1 but 2 of those 3-pointers that he hit. They were like, it was absolutely unbelievable. And it was respect to the Bucks, because they showed a lot of heart, and they showed that they weren't going to feel sorry for themselves because their stars were out. They played hard until the end, and they gave it everything that they got.
Yeah, I think the Bucks, they can go into this offseason knowing the margins are there to be fixed, but their core is good. They don't have to worry about that. They just need to be healthy, and they're fine. They're fine. But moving on to the Pacers, they played interesting. in this round. We know them as a team that super hot from three throughout the regular season, kind of tapered off at the end of this season here, which kind of continued. But they just were attacking the paint, attacking the paint, attacking the paint. They were scorching at the rim. They shot 68% at the rim against a team that, with Giannis there and Lopez, you'd expect to have better success. But obviously Giannis isn't there, and Lopez, a lumbering big, was just having a lot of trouble with the ball movement that they have. And that's really how they won this series. And they took care of business. They know how they play. They know how to share the ball. They know how to attack closeouts. And they lived off those corner threes. They lived off of getting to the paint. And the question is, how can they keep this success against the Knicks defense, coming into a very different scenario compared to the Bucks, who have struggled to prove their defensive identity, which, again, showed up here in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's to say it, to put it mildly. Yeah, the Pacers again, obviously they're the beauty that you watch them sharing the ball. Like, they had over 30 assists in every win against the Bucks. Like, they moved the ball quick, they moved the ball fast, and they always look to find that open guy to make the shot. And when you're watching that go on, you're like, how this team's can be unstoppable in certain stages. But it's kind of like it's a great contrast now, the Pacers and the Knicks. We've got the fastest team in the league against the slowest team in the league, and it's going to be a great test for the Knicks to see how much juice they still have left. How much did that series take out of them? How much did all the minutes they've been playing all season take? How much has that had a toll on them? Because the Pacers are going to run them off the floor if they're not ready to go. That's just the way that it's going to be. And it's nice that they don't have to go to a game 7. They get to have these 3-4 days off. That's definitely going to help. But it's going to be really interesting, and we're going to see it from minute 1. And I think Tibbs is going to have to expand the rotation a little bit in this series, because that the Pacers go deep into their bench. And I think, especially in like the first couple of games, I think Achua has shown is more than capable of providing a good solid 10-15 minutes in games. You can get McBride some more touches, maybe Alex Burks, but like, we need someone to replace Bogdanovich. Someone else that can shoot is going to need to show their face at some point. It's going to be a really, really interesting series, and I'm very excited for it. The contrast between these two teams is very interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up, because that is traditional regular season wisdom that I would 100% agree with, is that the Knicks play slow and the Pacers play fast, and that's going to be a clash. But I think what's interesting is that and tell me, like, eye test, you watch more Knicks tape than I do, of course, but since we've seen Randall be injured, we've seen a lot more fast-paced play. We've seen the ball stick less in the half court. We've seen the ball move a little bit more. We've seen a lot more, especially with DiVincenzo and Hart out there at the same time, McBride out there. Like, we've seen a lot more pace. And you'd be surprised to know that the Knicks are second in the playoffs behind OKC in fast break points. And I think that's intentional. Playing against Embiid, really forcing him to get up and down, trying to get back at not play against a set defense with Embiid back there. I mean, that's I think one reason they really tired him out. And the Bucks, they really slowed down the Pacers. The Pacers were 10th in the playoffs in fast break points, 5 points worse than their season average at 11.8. And I think obviously that's going to change as they play the Knicks. Things are going to pick back up again, and I think it'll be pretty equal. But I think the Knicks are poised to kind of match their pace. I mean, given the guys that they have out there, how they like to play in the open court, I don't think the Knicks are a team that will shy away from, a track meet. Josh Hart's going to get up and down just as much as the Pacers want to get down. Same with DiVincenzo. OG's shown us that he's really accustomed well to playing in the open court as well. And just think,
what a sign.
Incredible. And we are going to get to that in 2 seconds. But like, just thinking about the Knicks pace. I mean, they being second in the playoffs right now against the 76ers, who didn't take a ton of threes. You're now playing against the Pacers, who are taking like they're gonna probably be taking more threes than any team that they've faced in recent memory. And they've been missing a lot of those shots. And that's just going to really get them into the fast break. And if the Knicks can continue to thrive off that, I think the pace game actually might favor the Knicks a little bit, if not be even.
I think that a reason that it could happen is especially is the rebounding domination we should have as well. Like the Pacers are not a very good rebounding team. We are a great rebounding team.
Yeah.
So you believe that off misses we're gonna be the ones to claim the board, and that's when we can ignite the pace like we did against the 76ers. That's very true. And even if we play a bit slower, looking at it broadly, I would still think that the Knicks have a better chance of exposing the Pacers' frailties than the Pacers have of exposing the Knicks' frailties, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm still like I'm very, as a Knicks fan, I'm very confident of them winning this series. You're gonna have to give the Pacers probably at least one just for the home crowd that they have, and probably another one mainly because there's gonna be that game where they just cannot miss. They're playing at a million miles an hour. Everything's going down, and you just can't keep up. So I think this is going to be another 6-game series. It's a throwback series, the Pacers against the New York Knicks, but I'm confident that the Knicks can pull this win out.
Yeah, and I would say that it definitely favors the Knicks. Definitely favors the Knicks. And key couple things to look at with this series, specifically about your boy OG, who has been just a revelation, has fit in just perfectly, has done so many things on both ends of the floor for you guys. I think specifically in this matchup, the Pacers have heavily relied on Siakam. That has been the least talked about acquisition, midseason acquisition. That might be like, I can't remember a more important deadline signing in the last 5 years than Pascal Siakam, who is keeping the Pacers afloat here in the playoffs. They don't beat the Bucks without Pascal Siakam. Like, that's just obvious. Tyrese is still not back to who he was, only averaging less than 17 points a game here. Still distributing the ball, great, but not the same scorer he was. The key matchup here is OG versus boy Siakam.
Yeah.
2 guys traded at the deadline.
The old Raptor bro, isn't it?
And the thing is that the Pacers now are having to rely a lot more on inside-out play. Siakam gets the ball in his favorite spots in the mid-post. He can attack a mismatch, or he can attack his one-on-one and really get an advantage there. Force the defense to move, defense's rotation. That's how Pacers got a lot of open shots and attacking closeouts. That's a lot of offenses generated that way. Do they generate that same offense with OG there? I struggle to think of a better wing, big defender than OG that could contain him. But Pascal is also Pascal, and when you really run the offense through Pascal, I think he's suited for it. That's going to be a matchup to look at, because if OG is just there and he's a stalwart and he's not letting Siakam get anything one-on-one there, they're going to have to look elsewhere. I think that's going to be the first place they look to get their offense going.
Yeah, I wonder how much they're going to do that, and how much they might look to switch Anunoby onto potentially Miles Turner, which how much he likes to spread the floor. They don't want obviously Hartenstein or Robinson having to go out that far regularly. So I feel like they could make that switch as well. And they kind of used him as a bit more of a help defender against the 76ers, especially in like the second half of games, and that was huge for them. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this series. But that's definitely that's definitely a key matchup. And before I forget to say it, just on the Knicks, is Isaiah Hartenstein's push floater like the deadliest move since the skyhook? Like it's been unbelievable.
We'll check tracking data, but before we're done here. But who else do you think is an X factor of the series? I got my answer, and I think you kind of just said it, but
I think Deuce McBride's got to be an X factor for the Knicks. He's gonna have to fill the void left by Bogdanovic. Like, Bogdanovic was hitting very timely shots in that series against the 76ers. There was a few moments where we really needed a bucket, and he was there and he hit the shot. McBride has been great. He's been really great in that 76ers series. He kept on with that good form that he showed in the playoffs. he can hold his own defensively. Like he wouldn't be worried if he's guarding like Nemhard or even probably moments on Halliburton as well. He's gonna need to make some big shots. He's gonna have to continue to be that difference maker for us off the bench, especially in the games where maybe Dante is not feeling it or maybe Josh Hart's not feeling it as a scorer. That's going to be a huge void that he needs to fill, because there's still that element of doubt with the Knicks overall scoring outside of Brunson consistently.
Is he not the most like that's the most electric sound in the Garden when Deuce gets up a shot, and it's like this high arcing shot that takes forever to reach the rim anyway, and you just got people yelling Deuce for like 3 seconds as it's just flying through the air. Like, he had some crazy moments, and I think he's really arrived here, and I think he'll only continue to get better. I will find the I have to find the splits here on his shots here with Hartenstein. But my guy, Miles Turner, dude has really shown up here for the Pacers, as everyone else has struggled from three. Everybody. He's their best 3-point shooter right now. He's shooting 44% of his 41 3-pointers he's taken against the Bucks. And the surprising part, or maybe not so surprising if you're a Pacers fan, you know where he likes to shoot from. He's taking them much above the break, top of the key. And that's just a back-breaking location for your big to be able to launch from. And especially against the Knicks, and a Knicks team that has been very good at keeping opposing teams out of the paint and forcing tough shots in the paint. They held 76ers to their lowest percentage in the paint, 51% in the paint in this series. I don't know if they'll be able to do the same if Turner's just hitting those shots. That's just a very simple thing. If Turner can successfully pick and pop in this series, if he can space out Hartenstein, if he can space out Mitchell Robinson, that's going to be tough for them to handle. And that's where you brought in, the chess matches. Do you change up those matchups? Do you expect Hartenstein to stay in front of to stay in front of Siakam? That could be tough there. So there will be a lot of ripple effects of not just Siakam's matchup one-on-one, who I feel like could be OG, but also if Turner is able to space out the floor and force some different iterations there.
It's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be another very interesting series, and it's cool. Imagine hearing at the start of the season that one of the Pacers or the Knicks were going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think anyone would have been taking that bet, but that's what we've got, and great time. It's a great time to be in New York. I'm not gonna lie, but I call the Pacers in 6. Make your prediction on that series. Or no, I called the Knicks in 6. Sorry,
Knicks in 6. I'll take that. Knicks in 6. I think it's honestly, this was a lot of fun conversation, but at the end of the day, a lot of things are simple in basketball, and it comes down to rebounds. And I think you're absolutely right. The rebounding of the Knicks is going to be overwhelming. I think the Knicks also have shown, like you said, their ability to also match them in the open court with their pace, and those two things alone, I think, will give them at least in 6.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's flip it over to the West. The Lakers obviously went down in 5 games against the Nuggets. They finally managed to beat them, but they still were given the gentleman's sweep. They've now fired Darvin Ham. And a lot of people are getting really annoyed saying, like, because the main thing is, it's not to say that this season's failure was Darvin Ham's fault, but at the same time, Darvin Ham is just not at the level of coach that the Lakers need. That's just simply what it is. The roster is a bigger problem this year than Darvin Ham, no doubt. But Darvin Ham is still not a championship level, elite level coach, and that's just the way that it is. And yeah, people are gonna say he's a scapegoat and et cetera, but I think that he's just not at the level that you need to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's why he's been dismissed.
And this is more off-season conversation, but obviously we got to get into it. But names that immediately come to mind for the replacement. I got one.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. The biggest name is not going to come. The biggest name that they want clearly is not coming, and that's Ty Lue. That's not happening.
Yeah, why does that come? Like, obviously, I know why it comes. It comes because of the connection. It comes because he won a championship with LeBron. But I mean, the Clippers are also in a solid position. Like Ty Lue has been there for a while, and I think they'll continue to run it back until everything's fully gone. But that's not happening. But I think about Coach Bud. I don't know where he's at. He's been having a nice little vacation. You also got Terry Stotts. He's still interested in coaching, which was reported as of the winter, after he was unceremoniously leaving the Bucks. But I don't know why we're thinking JJ Redick.
Because they do the podcast together, man. It's so obvious.
I know, but we can't keep doing this. Can't keep doing this.
But
And
put it
I
this
love
way,
JJ Redick.
he's
but
too
like,
big
he's
of a
not
risk
coach.
for the Charlotte Hornets, but he's going to coach the Lakers.
Was that reported? I know that he was apparently interviewed for the Charlotte Hornets.
There was nothing official from the Hornets, but I did see an article from like one of the Hornets kind of like beat things that it was like the Redick is too big of a risk for the Hornets, and like just seeing that, and now he's being linked with the Lakers job is just so funny.
Yeah, that's not the. And JJ Redick has talked about how hard it is to be a coach. He understands. He gets it. And why would he put himself, as a guy who's been so successful in the media already? I feel like he's like the Tony Romo of sports fit. Like, honestly, like, he's so good at painting the picture of the game and what he's doing for coverage of the NBA. Then you're gonna go and be a coach of a team that probably does not have a shot of making the finals, and the pressure's gonna be on you. The scapegoat's you're gonna be the scapegoat. That doesn't sound. If I was him, that doesn't sound like a great time.
No, I think
that sounds like a terrible time.
Yeah. For your first job, no, like that's so tough. And like, don't get me wrong, like we've seen guys have major success with their first job. Like think like a lot of the greats, like Phil Jackson had never coached in the NBA before the Bulls. Eric Spoelstra had never coached in the NBA before the Heat. Popovich was similar. Like there is the guys that can be found, but
nobody was saying that Phil Jackson needed to win a championship with the Bulls or else he was going to be a failure.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I just like saying like if they are really doing good work and good scouting and good interviewing to find the guy that maybe has the magic potion to turn this Lakers team into a winner, even though he's not proven that he can do it before, maybe that guy is out there. But I think for the Lakers, it's just simple. They got to find a proven winner who has a legitimate way of playing and who's capable of adjusting on the fly as well. I think that's an important thing, especially with the Lakers, the age of them, how bad they've been with injury history and things like that as well.
You just need a normal baseline. You just need a normal good coach, and Bud is a great coach. Great coach, and I think the Bucks have buyer's regret. To circle back, I had to do this. I already said I would. Hartenstein. Not only did he make 65% of those floating jump shots, those floaters made up almost half of his attempts during the series. Made 65% of them. You are right. That is his secret weapon. There's your fun side of the day. Yeah, 65% on floaters.
It's a thing of beauty, and like it's just it
seems
to always go in.
It's not a thing of beauty.
It's lovely. It's a lovely little shot.
It's like it's the shot that you pull up to the court and there's like that like 65-year-old guy that you feel bad playing against, and then he just starts hitting these little that's the shot. It's that little your old uncle shooting the basketball, and he hits it every time.
Let me ask you another question then. Who has an uglier shot, Tyrese Halliburton or Cam Payne?
It's.
I think it might be Cam Payne.
No, okay. Cam Payne is like facing the opposite side of the court when he shoots, but Tyrese Halliburton just looks like he's having like a seizure right before he releases. His body just stiffens up. Like, if I had to choose a jump shot, I'm choosing Cam Payne. At least Cam Payne gets elevation. That's the thing. Cam Payne gets elevation. He can kind of shoot off a screen.
Okay, back to the Lakers.
Segue.
Back to the Lakers then.
Yeah. This Bush League podcasting. I apologize.
Yeah. This offseason, obviously, the coaches is obviously a big thing that they got to figure out. But this offseason, keep talking. They're going to pursue this third star and blah blah blah. If they want to keep LeBron, if they're saying we wanted to keep LeBron around. I don't think they need to get that third star. I think what their target should be a starting level center, a sharpshooter, and a guy who can be a bit of a spark plug for them off the bench. Like, if Gabe Vincent is healthy next year and D'Angelo Russell decides to leave and they put Gabe Vincent in to start instead of D'Angelo Russell, that's not bad. They get a starter level center who can actually play legitimate minutes in the playoffs, can actually give AD some rest time, can actually give AD some minutes at the four. That's big. And they can find someone who can legitimately shoot the ball, because Rui Hachimura, you can't rely on him. D'Angelo Russell, unfortunately, even though he shot 40% of the year, you still can't rely on him. Reeves, similar. You got like MPJ was such an X factor in that series against the Nuggets. Like, he was red hot from deep. And I'm not saying this guy is going to be available. I'm not saying that the team should want to get rid of him. But if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, if I'm going to pursue anyone really hard this year, I would pursue Trey Murphy III out in New Orleans.
He's not available. Dude, do you think the Pelicans are going to give the Lakers anybody?
I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying,
no,
like, that's
that
a
type
guy.
Of player, yes.
That's the type of player that they
Trey
need.
Murphy.
A guy with size who can play defense and who can hit the 3-point shot. They absolutely need that. And like, a big thing, obviously, it's offense, but they also need to find a way for their defense not to be so heavily reliant on Anthony Davis as well.
No, absolutely. And to be specific about your shout out, Michael Porter Jr. just had a completely underrated series against the Lakers. All we can talk about is his brothers.
Yeah. 20 points in every game, bar the first one where he had 19. And he hits so many timely 3-pointers. Like, just at moments where you thought the Lakers getting away, Michael Porter Jr., boom, 3-pointer. That like, it felt like that happened in every single game. Like, he was absolutely unbelievable. I think he hit 6 more threes than anyone else in the entire series.
Yeah,
like
he's the definition of a release valve. Like, when people talk about a release valve, like, you got an offense that gets option 1, 2, 3, and then when it's like the oh crap part of the shot clock where it's like 7 seconds left and nothing's happened, let's dump it off to like Michael Porter Jr. I don't have a stat on this, but like, he is so elite at finishing those plays. And in this series, almost 23 points a game, 8.4 rebound. Like, the boards, that is such an underrated part of his game. Really attacking the boards.
The size the Nuggets have is it's just scary. They got so many big guys who can rebound the basketball so well. He came up with a couple of big ones as well. A couple of ones where you thought maybe the Lakers were going to get an offensive board, and he kind of flying out of nowhere to pick it up. But it was as much as I believe the Nuggets knew they had the Lakers number. They knew they could just afford to play the margins and they were going to win this series. I genuinely do believe there was an element of that for the Nuggets. But at the same time, like, LeBron and AD matched Jokic and Murray. They did their job.
They did.
And unfortunately, the others for the Nuggets outperformed the others for the Lakers in every game other than the one that the Lakers won. That's just the way that it went. And again, the roster for the Lakers, they made, like, it's just all stemmed from fucking that stupid Russell Westbrook trade. They lost Caruso then, they lost KCP then, and like they think about the guys that they traded away Jaden McDaniels and Danny Green to get in Dennis Schroeder. Like, they little things like that, the decisions that they've made that could have changed so much for this Lakers team. The roster construction, as much as I was like high in it last year, you kind of realize slowly that the guys that kind of did so well the year before aren't really those guys on the whole of it. And unfortunately, like, their whole thing is they got to try and compete with the Nuggets. They need to add more size. They got to get some guys who are a little bit more reliable when it comes to scoring the basketball, and that's just the way it is. But yeah, the roster construction has not been good.
And we'll definitely dive into it more in the offseason. I'll just put one cherry on top of our Lakers end of playoffs rant, is that on top of all those things you've mentioned, all those needs, it's really tough to find those players. It's really hard, and sometimes you have to look to the draft. There was a kid, a Los Angeles kid, a local player who played at UCLA, starred at UCLA, a player who would have loved to put on that purple and gold, and his name is Jaime Jaquez Jr., and he plays for the Miami Heat. And no, he didn't have the most spectacular series against the Boston Celtics because the Heat had nobody, but this rookie was going toe to toe, like fighting to play in this series and showing that he could be a real rotation piece
But he's
in a
no
playoff
Jalen
team.
Hood Shafino. Come on.
Oh my gosh. But that has to be the cherry on top of like what you
And
said, all
and
these
not just Jamie
decisions.
Hawkins Jr., also Brandon Porzingis
Yep. Yeah.
right there
Another tough
after him
one.
as well. Yep,
Another
yep,
tough one.
just bad. And like again, they battled hard with the Nuggets again. It was a fun series, but at the end of the day, the Nuggets kind of knew what they were doing. The Nuggets always had the last shot. Murray obviously just super clutch despite shooting pretty poorly throughout the series. And the best thing about Murray is he actively seeks out Anthony Davis. He actively
Yeah.
looks to shoot over Anthony Davis. He's just like
Yeah.
he just loves it. He just like he loves shooting over Anthony Davis, not just in those clutch moments, but throughout the game. You watch him and he actively pursues shooting over Anthony Davis, which is just
Yeah.
which is just really cool. But let's get on to the Nuggets then. They're facing the
Yeah.
Timberwolves in the next round.
And let me stop one quick call out to
Go.
that what you mentioned, because I think this is an interesting thing, like a general basketball thing to watch in the playoffs is that our conventional wisdom is you don't go after those best defenders, but there are times where pressuring the team's best defender is very important from the get-go. You put pressure on them, you try to get them in foul trouble, you try to keep them active. You don't want the team's best shot blocker to be comfortable and just be sitting in the dunker spot waiting to block everyone's shot. You want to get them active. And we'll get into the Magic and Cavs at some point, but another example of that, you look at the Magic Cavs, they just started attacking Evan Mobley. You just attack the other team's best shot blocker, best defender, and that's another way to really pressure them. And Murray, I mean, that's a hell of a player to have to deal with, even for a defender like AD to stay in front of a shifty guard like that. But yes, this is absolutely the time where this is going to be the best series, unfortunately, of I think the entire playoffs.
Yeah,
It's going to be the best defensive team in the league against the best offensive team in the league, and two teams with players with a lot to prove.
mm-hmm.
I think like do the Nuggets have a lot to prove? Maybe not as much as the Timberwolves, who have finally put together a real season and are looking legit and are showing that they're more than just a first round team. But I think perspective wise, I think the Nuggets have shown us that hey, we're not just and this is no disrespect to the Bucks. I think the Bucks are a great team. I think the Bucks kind of were a type of team that win a championship, at best maybe a couple times in like a 5 to 10 year period. The Nuggets have shown that with their system and with how just efficient they are, and with how otherworldly Jokic is and making his whole team better, that they're a team that could be a year-to-year championship winner. Like maybe not the Warriors level, like that is just hard to ever achieve again, but aspiring to be something like that. And that this is the next step that they take. They have to get through the second best team in the league.
And the health is in their favor as well. Like you gotta like people say, like you have to have luck to win championships, and the fact they've been able to remain relatively healthy throughout this year, especially like Jokic and MPJ. I know Murray's been in and out a little bit, but he's healthy and he's going strong now, and that's the hallmark of champions right there. And like as much as I don't believe they're gonna do it, and I think they're gonna get better. I'll say right here, if they try to play the margins against this Minnesota team, they will lose this series. If they're not up to code, which I fully expect them to be at another level playing against Minnesota, which obviously that series starts tonight. Very very excited to have that first game, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if they kind of snap out of it very quickly, and it could prove important again that they've got that home advantage over Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think let's start here. A lot of it's going to be made, like I obviously just simplified it saying best offense against best defense, but I think it's going to come down to first and foremost the defense. The Wolves just posted the best offensive rating in the first round, 123 points per possession, and that was against a Suns team that I don't know when or if we'll get even into it today, but just clearly we're not ready for a serious playoff matchup. So a bit inflated, that number there. But how is that going to hold up against the Nuggets' stout defense? And that's going to be the biggest question for me. We saw Cat have a very comfortable time. We saw Anthony Edwards, not so much. They really loaded up on him, but Cat had a pretty easy time, and they shared the ball really well. They showed they had more players to rely on. They used their depth to score. And how is that going to look against the Nuggets? How are the Nuggets going to match up against Ant? Who are you throwing on Ant first and foremost?
I mean, KCP is the obviously
answer.
one there. Like he's going to be the one, and they're going to try and force him into the size of Aaron Gordon and Jokic if he tries to get towards the rim. That's just the way that they're going to play it. This is going to be interesting to see from Ant. Obviously, he's done it. He always showed up in the playoffs, and now he's showing up again against the Suns. Now they've actually won a playoff series. Now can he show up again against the Denver Nuggets, where he had a great series against them last year in the first round, and the Nuggets talked about how the Timberwolves were their toughest matchup last year, even though they beat them in 5 games. So it's going to be interesting to see how true that was and how much better that the Timberwolves have gone, that they've gotten going into this series. Cat's going to have to be big. Cat's going to have to continue to deliver. He was surprisingly comfortable. He looked better against that Suns team. I know it's tough to judge because the Suns just kind of really just suck. But if he can continue to hit his shots, if he can continue to attack the paint and just be in a bit more control, like he gives up so many stupid fouls on both ends, just running over people, just dropping his shoulder when you know you're going to get called for that. He just makes really dumb decisions at times. He's going to have to avoid that against the Nuggets because they will take advantage. If you give this Nuggets team an inch, they take 5 yards. That's just the way, that's just how good this team is. And the Wolves just can't afford that. The big thing that they're going to have to hope for is, can their bench stay as hot as it was against Phoenix? Because the bench for Denver wasn't very good. The bench for Minnesota, 27 points per game against the Suns, and 11.8 points per game for the Nuggets bench against the Lakers. That could be an area where the Wolves really thrive. Like they're a really deep team. Like they've got 3 guys coming off the bench that you believe can score points and can continue to deliver on the defensive end as well. It's going to be big. And then outside of that, it's also, can their tactics of playing the Nuggets work over a 7-game series? Their tactics for the most part is, Jokic, you get every single point you want. We're not going to let you let anyone else get going. That kind of feels like a big part of what the Wolves try to do when they play this Denver team. Can that work over a 7-game series? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that out, because I think that kind of leads right into like one of the key, not just matchups, but key players. Aaron Gordon is a key player in this series, not only because of his matchup with Cat, who is going to be, I mean, if Cat is, we'll just simplify it. If Cat can really put his mark on the series, stay out of foul trouble, and be who he is, Cat doesn't have to go and be like this crazy defender on the other end and really elevate his game there. He just needs to stay out of foul trouble and be himself on the offensive end, not take himself out of the game. But I think Aaron Gordon can take that away from him. Aaron Gordon is this key player, and not just that defensive part, but we're talking about offensively. When the Timberwolves will try to, I don't know if they're going to go full out like Jokic win this game. I think it might be a little bit of playing off of Gordon to start out, especially when you have Gobert and you have Cat. I think Cat can hold. This is kind of the traditional strategy. We've seen OKC do a bit of this as well, as if you have a guy that can hold Jokic in the post, you have a help defender that can help off of drives and help off of his post-up game. And if you can put Gobert on Aaron Gordon and just leave Aaron Gordon alone, and Aaron Gordon continues to shoot his average of 29% from 3 from the corner, that is going to be tough for the Nuggets. That is going to be something you're going to have to address, and that is something the Lakers tried to exploit last offseason or last postseason. Obviously did not work for them there, but that will be one of the iterations I think that has to get worked through, is can Gordon still be productive offensively if they're leaving him completely alone to help with Jokic? But the Cat thing, that's also important here. So I think a lot of the series kind of starts with the Cat and Aaron Gordon matchup there and how those work out on both ends of the floor. But what you mentioned about the bench, that has me excited too, because I think the Timberwolves bench is super underrated. They're not talked about enough. They are able, well, now I guess we give a little bit of credit to Naz Reid and giving him 6th man of the year.
Yep.
But I love those lineups that they run when you have Anthony Edwards out there, and then you throw out, even if Monte Morris is getting time, and you get Jaden McDaniels in the corner, you get Naz Reid even at the wing where he can shoot very well, over 40%, and you get Ant working in the post, especially if you got that in the second unit. If Ant's working on that second unit and he's in the post, they're sending a double, and that ball is swinging, and that ball's going to 3 shooters who are elite catch and shoot shooters there. And that's something that the Nuggets are going to have to figure out. Their non-Jokic minutes, the Timberwolves are going to, they have to win those. And they don't have to win, they have to win them by a lot. And I think they can. So if we're talking about like where the advantages come, I don't, it's really hard for me to convince myself that they're going to figure it out with Jokic on the floor. Let's just go through some numbers here real quick on that. Jokic averaging 26.3 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists in the last 12 matchups against Gobert in the playoffs. He also turns into a sharpshooter against Rudy. He launches above the break threes. He loves that spot right at the top of the key where he shoots 53% from 3 when he's playing. It's just against Rudy, I guess. It's his thing. And then his mid-range even picks out with his floaters, push shots, and all that. Like the Jokic minutes, you're gonna lose. I love and I really believe in the Timberwolves team, and if they can slow down Jokic minutes as well, that's just tip your cap. Somehow you manage to figure out the best offensive player in basketball. But like you said, the bench, I think that's where they can win the series.
Yeah, and Jokic only averaged 4.3 assists per game against the Timberwolves this year. That just shows the kind of tactics that they try to play. They try to disrupt them as much as they possibly can in terms of everything outside of his scoring, which is pretty much unstoppable when he's in a groove. So the bench is going to be key. Then you look, can MPJ stay as red hot as he was against the Lakers? Absolutely, because he's going to get great looks when he's playing with Murray and Jokic. And then you're like, McDaniels, can he stay as the two-way threat that he was against the Suns, or is he going to be worked that little bit harder defensively, so he might not have the juice to go on the offensive end as well? And then the last thing, and then is Murray. Murray, as much like he was clutch as hell, like he delivered in that fourth quarter before hitting the game winner. Then he hit another game winner in the last game. But for the series, he was shooting sub 40% in every game outside of the last one. Imagine he was shooting like 45-46% each game, like imagine the blowouts that there might have been in those games. And I think it's going to be tough for him to want to find his shot against the Wolves. Like, their scramble defense is unbelievable. He's going to get so much different hands in his face. It's going to be so hard for him to get open. And if the Wolves can continue to be that disruptive force, it just comes down to how consistent their offense can be, which we all know has its question marks.
Yeah. And I think we've seen Ant be really good against his Suns defense, but they don't have that same personnel. The Nuggets do. They don't have that same level of, championship level defense that the Nuggets do. And I think you mentioned with Jaden, I'm curious to see which Jaden we get. We see him game 1 against the Suns, great game. Ant can be a playmaker. Jaden's one of those guys who's really taking advantage of, the Suns honestly just triple teaming Ant at times. And then game 2, not there. Game 3 shows up again, has over 20 points. And that's what you need from Jaden. You don't need an explosion, but you need him to, like, the second, third time you load up on Ant, if you got Jaden scoring on the other end, then it makes it tough. It's like, all right, we need to pull back from that a little bit. And if he can't do that, that's when Ant's going to run into some trouble. And if he's able to deliver, that comes through majorly. But you got him, you got the bench, you got 2 major X factors that I think could swing the series in a bit. I think when we look at the defense of the Wolves, I'm curious about how it'll hold up, because they're very, very well equipped. We did see it in the regular season. They held the Nuggets to 2 of the only 8 games they had below 100 points. They've shown it. Playoffs, a little bit different story. But they're very equipped. So saying against the Phoenix Suns, 3 on-ball creators, well, they have some of the best you have to offer in the NBA at on-ball defenders. Anthony Edwards, when he is engaged, in which he has been now for some time, as an on-ball defender, elite. Jaden McDaniels, elite. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I'm so happy he's finally getting his time in this league to show what he can do. Borderline elite. And those guys are going to have a very different time, though, with the Nuggets because they don't run kind of selfish offense. They don't just run spread pick and roll. They don't just run empty ISO sets. They're going to run a lot of screening actions. They're going to have to get through a lot of different variations of their DHOs. And that's a very different type of offense to defend than mano a mano. Take you up all the length of the court and drill you down. Like that type of defense really destroyed the Suns in a way that the Nuggets will not play like. The Nuggets aren't going to play like I'm just going to beat you 1-0. Like they're going to force them to get through screens. They're going to force them to decide whether they want to switch or they want to help. And that's when you get MPJ open shots. It's when you get Jokic slip into the rim. And that's when you get also, this is another thing with Gordon. Like Karl Anthony Towns out there, those Gordon, if he's not shooting, he's also going to be using his telepathic connection with Jokic, slip into the rim and getting those easy lobs. Like Cat's really gotta focus on his off-ball game here because he could be a very weak link on this defense if he's losing focus on that end and allowing some of the cuts that the Nuggets love to use to get there. So it's gonna be different. Like we can't just transpose that performance you saw, that dominating performance that we saw against the Suns, because this is a very different beast.
Yeah, I mean, I called the Timberwolves to beat the Suns in 7. They obviously ultimately swept them because the Suns were just terrible and showed nothing of what they showed in the regular season against the Timberwolves. This time, though, I'm going to call the Nuggets in 7. I think this is going to be a great series, but my lack of trust in Cat delivering the way that he needs to deliver makes me believe that the Nuggets are still going to pull it out.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You honestly, I think you swung me. I wasn't thinking about the bench as much as I should have. I'm going Wolves in 7, not just because of the bench, not just because Ant is taking that next leap. Ant is going to prove himself not just to be a top 5 player by the end of this playoff run, but let's say top 6. I don't want to say top 5. I feel like we're going to get tough there. But unfortunately, I feel like this series may come down to health. The Nuggets are deep, but they're not deep enough to stop Ant. They need KCP to be healthy. How's that ankle doing? I love Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson's been one of my favorite rookies, one of the most talented rookie defenders we've seen in a while. But he doesn't have that level of veteran know-how to stay in front of Ant consistently, and he's not also going to be able to use that freak athleticism to just chase down block. And that's Anthony Edwards now. It's a little different now. You can do that against Devin Booker. You can do it against Bradley Beal. You even do it a couple times against Kevin Durant. It's slowing down a bit. But Anthony Edwards, if he's by you, he's by you. So Peyton Watson is not going to have, I think, the same effect on their elite perimeter creator that he's had. I think that unfortunately might be a major thing if KCP is not able to be fully healthy, especially against a physical Ant. And if Jamal Murray, I'm worried about that calf.
Yeah.
I'm worried about that calf. He's been able to pull it out, and he's had a couple amazing plays, but this is going to be a long series. Like, I think we both agree it's going to go to 7. And can he stay healthy? I hope the answer is yes. And if it is, I think I agree with you. If both these guys just pull it out, they're good to go for the whole range of the series. Nuggets in 7, but I can't see that against the physicality and the size of the Wolves that they're going to be able to hold up the whole way through.
Yeah, I'm believing in the Nuggets, but I'm hoping in the Wolves. I love this Wolves team. I love Anthony Edwards, and it'd be awesome if they're able to put it out. But we'll end part 1 there. We'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the Mavericks and the Clippers, the Thunder, the Suns, the Bucks, and we'll get a little bit more into Game 7 of the Cavs and Magic then too. All right, we're back and we're talking the Dallas Mavericks 4-2 series win over the Los Angeles Clippers. We will, of course, get into the Clippers. Another year gone by for them, but Dallas finally expedites their demons. They finally get over the Los Angeles Clippers in the playoffs, and they were really impressive. They crapped out in Game 1, but then after that, they kind of really took charge of the series.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we see from playoff success is tone and the ability to be who you are on the floor and do that consistently. And you can just see that. A lot of it's you can't see it in the box score, but is this team getting to what they want to do? Not just even from like a strategic standpoint, but from like a mental standpoint. Like, what is their body language like? And I think that was the toughest part about really getting behind this Mavericks team that a couple years ago we see kind of fade out after a really great playoff run with Luka leading the way with poor body language, and that kind of putting out an air of negativity just on the floor that they couldn't recover from. And what we've seen here in game one, you got a little scared and you kind of saw a bit of the same. And they have just come back with great intensity. And I think the Clippers have sharpened them to get to that point. And just last night, man, that just underscored who this Mavericks team is. That reinvigorated the NBA and knowing that Kyrie Irving is that guy. He is that guy.
He's like Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky now. It's amazing.
I love when Kyrie Irving is happy, the whole league is happy. Nobody took joy in the antics that we've seen, and I think we're so happy to see him be successful there. But I think we just start there, man. Kyrie Irving and what he's done for this team over the course of this series, over the course of this season, how he's grown into his role as a leader, but not by taking control of this team, but by leading by action, by allowing Luka to be Luka, by saying all the right things about being his not just his teammate and not just his co-star, but saying this is Luka's team, but also he's there to pick up the slack when Luka's not doing well. But
and they needed that in this series big time.
His second half was one of the best halves of basketball in this first round.
28 points, just insane.
Unbelievable. And I think the main thing I want to focus on is, for Kyrie in particular, is the defense. Look at the defense he is playing. The amount of fits that he gave James Harden, he at times was the best on-ball defender in this series, hands down. And that's Kyrie Irving. That is the same guy that's running down the court and taking a pull-up three in your face. That's the same guy that's forcing a double team and still pulling up in your face. That's the same guy that's doing all these things on offense, and that's bringing it on the defensive end. And that's something that, a couple of years ago, with Jalen Brunson, with Luka Doncic, that you didn't necessarily have. You had that intensity on the offensive end, and then everyone kind of had to pick up the slack. The other guys had to pick up the slack on the other end. And no, Kyrie's leading that. He's leading that, and I think he's leading by example, because we've seen, maybe not 100% of the time, it's not perfect, but we've seen the effort from Doncic.
Yep.
And I think that's huge. Like, your co-star who's allowing you to, be the face of the franchise, allowing you to take the majority of the shots. Hey, he's leading it on defense. Like, come do the same. That's your vet too. So I think it's huge what Kyrie has done to change the mood of this team at times, and their intensity on defense. And the fact that it's Kyrie Irving doing that is nothing short of it's amazing. It's amazing. He's such a undersung basketball player, and maybe for good reason over the past few years. But I'm just still in awe of last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's the outside stuff. It's stuff off the court that has hurt Kyrie Irving's reputation and his standing in this league. But he is one of my favorite players of all time. When he's in a groove, when you're watching him play at his best, there isn't many better to watch than Kyrie Irving. And everything just feels like the shots don't even touch the rim. Everything is just so pure and beautiful. Everything just feels like magic when you're watching him play. And how important it was to have him in this series, because when Doncic hurt that knee, he was not the same player for a game or two. You notice that difference. And if Kyrie wasn't there, maybe the Clippers are still able to pull this out even without having Kawhi Leonard, with Luka having those couple of games where he wasn't quite at Luka level, and maybe he never really got back to it, but he still was able to drop the triple doubles and the 35-point games regardless of it. But they need him so much, and what he's doing, and he's made a point. I think he did a quick interview with one of the guys from ESPN, and made a point of talking about his defense and how he wants to be recognized for his defense now. And that's a great thing to hear. And that's he's shown that he's realized that that's really important for him to do. He wants to be a winner again. He wants to be a winner with Luka Doncic, and he's doing everything that he possibly can to make that happen. Not just be the unbelievable offensive player he is that we already know, but really dig in on that defensive end and show Luka this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do to be a winner. And Luka, I think, is kind of looking at it and going, "Oh shit, okay, I'm in, I'm ready, I'm good to go here." And
And
that's just
I
the
need that
difference.
consistently from Luka, because like there have been a couple plays where he is just still taking the possession off and just allowing Harden to go by him. And it's almost like you could tell the game plan was to, take away Harden's left hand, funnel him to a help defender to the right, not allow him to get to that step back, not allow him to get to that floater. And then it felt like Luka would just like take that and just be like, okay, I guess I just have to funnel. That's not funneling him. He just literally let him go by him at times. But when it came down to it, like, if you're watching Kyrie's effort, not just on Harden, but even like switching on to Paul George, and Paul George goes to post him up, and Kyrie is right there, not letting him back him down, getting up in his grill, like, just unbelievable effort from him. And I think just going beyond Kyrie and talking more on the whole on the Mavs and what this identity is, I think it's so cool to see this come to fruition when 2 years ago, when the Mavs had a stretch of being a top 5 defense in the league with Maxi Kleber, with Dwight Powell, and the amount of switching that they did, and kind of thinking about, this is not sustainable. They don't have the type of personnel. We saw that play out last year, one of the worst defenses in the league. And then this year, they had that the crazy acquisitions that now they look back at it, like how transformed this team feels. Going from no Daniel Gafford to Daniel Gafford, going from no PJ Washington to PJ Washington. And yes, I know I like the first couple weeks out of it, we were going a little bit too far. It was just a data thing. We was not going to crown them as the best defense. But what they've done now is they have these big wings. They have these very mobile, athletic bigs that can play the way they wanted to a couple of years ago and sustain that. The fact that they can switch, the fact that they can actually help and recover, like the fact that they can fly around the perimeter and still be huge and athletic. And they have these guys. And it seems like that's all coming to fruition because look at the boards. Like they can win the boards against any team. They're not going to get bullied by big, thicker players like Mason Plumlee and Ivica Zubac, like who I loved last night. Like you just really, I think it was poetic justice that Zubac was trying to bully them all night. And then the second half, Gafford was like, yeah, I had enough of that. And just starts dunking in his face. And that the layers to this team that go beyond Luka, that go into Kyrie, that go into this defensive mentality, that go into the rebounding, that go into the open court. Josh Green, like this guy, like he's got to have played. I got to look into his wiki now. Like he's got to have played rugby. This guy is a rugby player, just going up and down the court, never stops. What he does in the open court, like you've got to be excited with how they've redefined themselves really over the past several months and into last night, getting this win over the Clippers, who obviously without Kawhi would have had a tough time. But I think they're ready to make a statement here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've loved the balance that they've had between Gafford and Lively. I think Lively was absolutely superb, and there was definitely games where he was the better of the two bigs, and they played into that.
Yeah,
like they balanced the minutes. They balanced the minutes really well. I think it's gonna, hopefully for them, Maxi Kleber is healthy.
that was a bad fall, man.
It
I'm
was
glad he
it was a
didn't
nasty fall. Like
dislocate his shoulder.
you looked like it kind of, there was a pop or something. It was a nasty fall for him. Hopefully he's at least able to come back in the OKC series, because he was actually finally starting to hit a few shots.
Yeah.
I genuinely felt like I went like 10 straight games watching the Mavs where Maxi Kleber shot like 3 or 4 3-pointers a game and didn't hit a single one. But in this series, he was actually starting to hit his shots again, and he's a great piece for them to have off the bench defensively. That's great for them. The way he spreads the floor is huge. So they're gonna want to they're gonna be hoping that he's not too seriously injured and that he's able to come back in this OKC series. But do we go? Let's go on to the Clippers. We'll preview we'll talk Thunder in a minute, and then we'll preview the next series. But
just gotta shout out DJ first and foremost.
Okay.
Like Derek Jones Jr. And I'm glad he got some screen time yesterday. I'm talking about his journey throughout the NBA, holding Paul George to a inefficient 18 points, making him feel his presence night in, night out. This guy is a major reason why they won. A major part of, again, this identity, this ability for them to play both ways of the floor. I mean, that guy, he's got to get his flowers for what he's done for this Mavs team to be as successful as they are.
Yeah, 100%. But then Clippers, another year slowly by goes for the Los Angeles Clippers, and sadly, once again, Kawhi Leonard is hurt when they need him the most. This is the third straight year this has happened.
Can you say that they would have won this series if Kawhi was there? Like, okay, that's a simple question. Yes, they could have, but do they definitively win this
No.
if you're replacing Amir Coffey and PJ Tucker minutes with a healthy Kawhi Leonard?
No, then definitely there's no definitely. The Mavericks had a very, very strong chance of winning this series, regardless of whether Kawhi was at 100% or whether Kawhi played those 2 games where he was at 50% or didn't play any of the rest. Like this was that very much a series like Minnesota and Phoenix. It was very much a series whichever team lost, it was going to be a really bad loss for them, no matter how they went down. They were both teams that wanted to have success, that have made the moves to make sure they had success this year, and ultimately it didn't come to fruition. But again, it's tough with Kawhi because this is the third straight year where he is not there when you need him the most, and they're invested in him, and he is their lead guy, and he's just not been there. And then you're relying on Paul George and James Harden, who sadly are incapable of performing in back-to-back games. One game, oh yeah, they can be unbelievable. Then the next game, nope, sorry, we're clocked out. We're not here for that. Like, as a duo, they've combined for 42 games, shooting 30% or worse on 10 or more field goal attempts in the playoffs. They're first and ninth in those categories. Last night in that elimination game, they tried to add another one each. They both shot just above 30%. Like, they can be great when there is a greater guy on the floor with them.
Yeah.
But when they need to be the great ones, it's just not all there. And that's why I think the Clippers are in a hole, because like, what are they going to turn Kawhi into? Like, they can't move on for him, and they just kind of have to roll with it, and they have to bring back PG, they have to bring back James Harden, and they have to just hope for the best.
I struggle to think about, like, when you think about Harden and think about PG and think about how good they can be as a second option, I struggle to think that if Kawhi is there, how the Mavs deal with that, like healthy Kawhi. Even if you say, all right, what if everyone's out, like healthy Doncic, healthy Kawhi, like that I think is the most frustrating experience of the Clippers, is that the team is there, coaching is there, the depth is there, the defense is there, the play, like everything is there except for the one guy who is the reason that everything is there. It's insane that he still has not put together a serious run for the Clippers when an entire stadium has essentially been built because he arrived to this team.
Yeah.
Jobs.
And we thought this was going to be the year.
Thousands of jobs have been created for the arrival of this guy. Billions of dollars have been spent. Not just on his contract.
And he was so healthy this year. And we actually thought this is going to be the year. And then again, just injuries. This guy is just, sadly, the luck is just not there, and it just feels like it's never going to be there, because unfortunately, once you get that injury bug, it is so tough to recover from it. One injury leads to another, and so on, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
Don't blame Kawhi, blame Zaza Pachulia.
Dead right.
So, I think we'll talk more later on, I think, about where the Clippers go on from this. And I think the quick answer is they're going to reload. I think they'd feel good. And I think most teams feel good at, hey, if our team is healthy, we can compete. And yeah, that's a big if, but I don't think you'll find many other teams that can truly say that if our team as currently constructed is healthy, we could win a championship. And I think that still holds true. And I think that mental exercise of thinking, if Kawhi is present here, again, not Amir Coffey, and there's no disrespect, Amir Coffey, great 11th guy in the playoffs, sure, but Kawhi Leonard there, surrounded by what we saw from James Harden, Paul George, admittedly not consistently, wouldn't matter if Kawhi's there. I think they probably win this in 6 or 7 with Kawhi's presence there. I really, I really think it's underrated how good he is when he's healthy, especially in a scenario like that. Especially if he's being engaged on Luka, like that would have made a world of difference.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm not going to say they couldn't win. I was still very much in the belief, whether Kawhi was there or not, that I think this was going to be the Mavericks' year, that they were going to be able to take them down. But like, your point obviously stands. It's completely hypothetical, but like, Kawhi is an all time playoff closer, so it's hard to say that he wouldn't have had that impact.
So looking forward, the Mavs, their goal is not just to be out of the first round. They tasted the Western Conference Finals. They were almost there a couple years ago. That's where they want to be. They're coming up against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have quietly put away the Pelicans, quietly have been the best team in the playoffs statistically.
Yeah.
By quite a margin. And the Pelicans, that's a team that ideally you think that they would have had trouble with. They have size, great rebounding team. They have a center who's just a lot bigger than Chet, should have given him problems. And just to wrap all this up in a bow, if they had Zion, sure, that would have been difficult. But I think OKC pretty handily took them out, was able to do everything they wanted to do, did it with a lot of grit, did it without overly stressing themselves. They win that game, don't celebrate much, and they're on to the next one. This is a professional winning team that is ready to compete long term, and they are the youngest team in the NBA to win an NBA series. Got that Coach of the Year, Mark Daniel, MVP candidate Shea. We'll see if he wins it. I gotta feel like this is gonna be one of the great playoff series between the Mavs and the Thunder, and it's gonna be really hard for me to make a decision here. I haven't made my mind up on who I think is gonna pull this one out.
Yeah, this is just really tough. Like, and again, that series against the Pelicans kind of showed the margins that are there in the playoffs. That game one, like, that was the Pelicans' chance. The Thunder weren't really going for it. Like, if Brandon Ingram can somehow do a little bit better playing up against Lou Dort, maybe they're able to pull it out. But after that game, the Thunder beat the Pelicans by a combined 61 points after that game one. So that just shows like the like that, maybe that was just that kick of the butt they needed. Okay, we didn't really play our best there. Let's turn it on from here on in, and that's exactly what they did. And you talked about how like they're just so focused on the next thing. It wasn't just about winning that one series. And Mark Daniel said it. He was like, yeah, this team is young, but this team is mature. That's a point that he made. He made a point of saying that these aren't just enjoying the show here. This is not just they're that young team. They've broken through, and now they're just gonna fade into the light there. Like that. This is a team that are here to win. This is a team that is here to battle now, and it's gonna be a hell of a series. You want to say, oh, the Mavericks bigs could cause them a bit more trouble, and maybe that's true with like the ability of Kyrie and Luka. That might be true, but at the same time, I was expecting to have a lot more trouble than they did in that first round, and the way that they play as well is going to cause the Mavericks trouble as well. And then you're going to have to look, can Kyrie and Luka sustain the defensive level that they played at in that first series? What's Lou Dort going to have in store for Kyrie or Luka? Like how much of an impact can he have on those guys? He did a pretty good job at Ingram, but Kyrie and Luka are a different package in that sense of offensive quality.
Yeah, I think that there's so much. This is gonna be such an ultimate chess match, and it's gonna be so evenly matched because, like, you would expect that, the major advantage for the Mavs here, the obvious one, is probably on the boards. They have the size and physicality in the front court. OKC can't necessarily match that personnel-wise, but they've shown that they've been able to gang rebound. Chet's shown that he's strong enough to deal with other bigs, and I think that Valanciunas is a vastly different big than Daniel Gafford. And I think that he is very well equipped to deal with athletic bigs who want to go over the top. And the lob game that the Mavs love to get to, that's not going to be there when Chet's on the floor, just straight up. Like he will single-handedly eliminate that. And that's why I think it's huge if Kleber's healthy or not, because whether or not Kleber's hitting shots, he's getting closeouts. Like the defense is stretching to contest those shots. So it'll be interesting to see, like, whether or not OKC's game rebounding persists against the Mavs. I think the Mavs are probably going to out rebound them for the whole series. But in terms of their interior presence that the Mavs have established, I think Chet alone. I think Chet's really, he is that great. Yeah. He is that kind of player, like an Anthony Davis level player, that when he is on the floor, he can completely eliminate a facet of your game, especially when it comes to that. And Gafford and Lively, this is going to be a huge test for them. They're going to have to really wear him down. And you mentioned it, OKC on the perimeter, comparing James Harden and Paul George to Jalen Williams and Shea, they're very different players. I think James Harden, you can play a lot more with a lot less versatility. Like they had a game plan for him, let him drive right, and funnel him to help defenders, and kind of work from there. OKC is a better 3-point shooting team, though. Yeah. I think that's one thing that's gonna struggle. They can't play them the same way they played James Harden, where you just collapse on him and then rotate out. OKC has some snipers. And if you let them get that ball moving, they're going to, I think, score a lot more efficiently than the Clippers have shown. So there's so many ways that this is going to go, and so many advantages that they'll be able to play through. But I really can't say it's such a coin flip, which is saying a lot for, again, the youngest team in the NBA to win a playoff series against a team that we just praised, Luka and Kyrie's team that's really surging now.
Maybe the coach can prove the difference, but I'm gonna go with the Mavs. I'm gonna take experience. I'm gonna take the Mavs in 6 games, but I think it's gonna be a tight one.
6. Whoa.
I think it's gonna be a close battle, and the Mavs might just gonna edge the margins, I think.
I'm gonna say Mavs in 7. I'm gonna say Mavs in 7, and it's gonna come down battle of the boards. Can the Mavs over a period of time continue to out-rebound the Thunder, get more opportunities than them?
I'll definitely say that I'll be disappointed if maybe both, but if at least one of the series, the semifinals in the West, doesn't go to 7 games, I'll be disappointed, because they should be. These teams are both so well matched, and both have such great talents. Like, at least one of them has to go to 7.
Is there any possibility that either of these games ends in a sweep or in a 5 game?
Yes, the Nuggets could do that.
I'm gonna say, like, from what we've seen with Jokic against Gobert, like I struggle to think that would happen, but if it was gonna happen, I could see that.
Yeah, like, Nuggets could still do it. Jokic. Outside of that, I don't think they will, but Nuggets could. There's definitely that in the back of my mind. There's definitely still the possibility that the Nuggets could absolutely do that. But flipping them back over to the East, the Boston Celtics, they made very light work the shorthanded Miami Heat, but they've lost Kristaps Porzingis, likely for at least the entire second round. I don't think that's going to hurt them in the second round, but moving forward, I think that it does hurt them. They showed they don't just have to hit their threes to be able to win. They were able to win ugly against Miami. They were able to win with the other guys stepping up, like Derek White when he just went insane. Other guys making shots like that. Like, they've shown that it's not just about 3-point shot with them. They have other ways to win. But when you think about them as a championship team, you've talked about it all year. They need a healthy Kristaps Porzingis, and even if he comes back, what version of him comes back?
Yeah, and it's funny because you look up this is just how good the Celtics are, and this is why it's so boring to talk about them, because they're so good and they're so consistent. Celtics with KP, defensive rating of 112. Without KP, 112.9. Like, they make up for, with the redundancy on their roster, with the versatility of their defenders, they make up for that loss. And Al
Horford just being great as well.
That is my question. So, like, he did average 27 minutes per game on the year. He's only played 25.6 minutes per game in this series against the Heat. But if this series, and we'll talk about Magic Cavs, like, if we just look at the 2 different possibilities here, if it's the Magic, that is going to be tough. Losing KP he is a boon against a team that is the best interior team in the league. They will out-rebound you. They will get to the line more than you. They will score at the rim more than you because the Magic are that tough. I mean, they've shown it time and time again. If it's the Cavs, not a big deal. I think if the Magic advance here, like that they could give the Celtics some trouble. I'm not saying they're going to win the series, but I'm saying that they're going to give them some trouble, and they're going to take advantage of them not having their rim protector there.
I don't think they'll be able to take enough advantage. I'll be disappointed in the Celtics if they don't sweep whoever they play. Like they're a far superior team. The complete malfunction of offense we've seen from both the Magic and the Clippers throughout this series, and the complete dominance that we've seen from the Celtics on both ends of the floor. Like they should have swept the Miami Heat, but obviously Miami had that unbelievable game too where they hit 23 3-pointers, which is just insane. But that's how much they're gonna need. Like the Magic don't have that in them. The Cavs maybe in one game, possibly. The Magic absolutely cannot hit more. If they were able to hit 15 threes in a game, I'd be really impressed. They just don't have the offense to handle the Boston Celtics. Neither of those teams really do. I guess I'd favor if the Cavs come out of this. Maybe they can pull out one with Donovan Mitchell's great ability to score the basketball. But I think the Celtics, even without KP in that second round, will be thinking we can sweep here. This is going to be no skin off our nose here.
That's fair. Heat gave them a little bit of a jump scare. Wondering, is this going to happen all over again? Luckily, they got through it, unfortunately, without KP now. And looking at these two teams that they could face up against, let's talk about Magic and Cavs.
What a weird series this has been. Like, I'm not surprised it's gone to 7 games, but it's been a strange series. So look
talked about it. This was going to happen.
Yeah, but it almost not in the same way. Like, look at the first game 1 and game 2. Magic literally have no offense whatsoever. Then we go to game 3 and game 4, and the Cavs have absolutely nothing. Like, they were terrible defensively. They were terrible offensively. They were minus 61 in those 2 games. Then they just about eke out the win at home thanks to a clutch Evan Mobley block. And then last night, Donovan Mitchell drops 50 and they cannot pull out the win. Evan Mobley scores a total of 3 points in the game. Darius Garland only puts up 7 points in the entire second half. And Mitchell has all their points in the fourth quarter. Like, that's bad. I know he's taking more shots and he wants that moment and all, but how the hell is Evan Mobley only scoring 3 points in a game? Like, he's meant to be, I know defense is his calling card, but 3 points, come on, like that's atrocious. Like, fair play to the Magic, they took advantage of it, but it's been a really bizarre series, and I feel like I'm more surprised than I should be because I kind of knew this is the way it was gonna go, but it's more that it's been the complete contrast from one game to another, and from like being in Orlando to being in Cleveland, it feels like it's been way all over the place.
I feel like it makes sense. The first 2 games, the Magic, I don't think the Magic stopped being the Magic, but offensively they were not getting to what they wanted to get. I think they were trying to go a little bit too far to getting their 3-point shooting up, which was never going to be a thing. They don't have the personnel for it, and trying to work through Gary Harris more. And what do we see different? Okay, Banchero, get us through this. Franz Wagner, get us through this. Get them in their favorite spots. Get Franz getting downhill off DHOs. Let these 2 guys lead the way, and they've done it. We've seen Banchero. His usage is now up to 33%, which is where you want him to be. Donovan Mitchell, for reference, his playoff career usage 34%. You've got Banchero with a superstar load, and that's what he should have. He should be leading the way there, and I think their offense has benefited from that. And I think you've seen Suggs respond. He's not having his best shooting series, but he's still making his impact. You've seen everyone else respond too in terms of what they're doing on defense, how they're still attacking the paint. Jonathan Isaac logging more and more minutes, leading the team in blocks, getting key rebounds, spacing the floor from the corners, although not in volume. I want to see more of that. But I think the Magic have grown through those 2 games, have grown through this series, and the Cavs have shrunk.
Yeah.
Mobley has looked less and less. Garland has looked less and less. He's just not comfortable trying to put up a shot because he's too small. The Magic are just too big. Like he feels like he's gonna get blocked. Like he's never been a guy that's had a lot of bounce to his perimeter jumper, and he gets away with a lot of his drives to the rim from his quickness. But in a crowd, he's not getting a shot off. He's just running by baseline and resetting it. And what we saw last night was kind of a culmination of them having no real second option to score outside of Donovan Mitchell. Garland's a facilitator at heart. Mobley's not a true option on offense. Jared Allen is a opportunistic scorer off of dump-offs and cleaning up the boards. Isaac Okoro is too scared to shoot the basketball in a playoff scenario. Someone needs to put out a missing person alert for Karis LeVert because I have no idea where he went. I thought he was going to be an X factor. When you get in these ruts, all right, Karis LeVert, get off the bench, run some offense. He's a great passer. He's got size. Maybe he can deal a little bit with no. Nowhere to be found.
Gonzo.
You'd be surprised to know that he's averaging over 20 minutes a game because you would think he's not even there. Let's not even talk about the changes they made in the offseason. You bring in 2 quote-unquote sharpshooters. You want to bring in Strus. You want to bring in Niang. They're shooting 28% and 13.3% from 3 collectively. Sam Merrill, that was cute. He can't play playoff basketball, especially against the Magic. Like this dude looks like a high schooler against these guys out there. He's too small. He cannot play that brand of basketball in the playoffs. They don't have the guys. This is approaching a catastrophic Game 7, man. This is like if they win, great. Then maybe you kind of talk about it. But the Magic have pushed this to the point of no return for a Cavs team that will not be able to convince Donovan Mitchell after he scored 50. After he scored 50 on one leg. Scored 50 on one leg, driving into the paint every single possession with everyone just watching and hoping he scores. Please score, Donovan, because none of us can score. None of us can get in the paint. Nobody's cutting off of anything. There's no action off the ball. It's just, please, Donovan Mitchell, win us this game, please. Please. That's not the situation he wanted. That's not the situation any superstar of his level should be in, because I think they've proven it at this point. That regular season run was great. In the playoffs, who's going to step up? And I think a little bit of disrespect for Jaren Jackson Jr., the comparisons we've drawn between Evan Mobley and him. We thought Evan Mobley would take a step offensively to be kind of that real two-way guy, and it's not there. This is approaching a very quick end to this experiment between these 4 guys, talented players, but the Magic are just heating up, and I think the Cavs are realizing who they really are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's definitely a point that the Magic are slowly playing better as the series goes on, and Cavs are going in the opposite direction. Kind of outside of Donovan Mitchell, he's had his bad games as well, but he's shown that he's still that guy who can step up when it really counts. But I mean, we talked about it. They deserved this loss. They played in fear. They played in fear, and they played to try and get what they believe to be the most favorable matchup. And now it's coming back to bite them in the ass, and rightfully so. And I really hope that the Magic pull this out. But unfortunately, no road team has won a game yet in this series. And again, the tenseness of a Game 7, there's a little bit more stiffness in the shoulders when you're putting up those shots. There's a little bit more impact on every turnover and every missed shot. And like I said, when we were previewing this series, if it gets to that level, that's when I'll believe that Donovan Mitchell is good enough to pull it out for the team. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm rooting for the Magic all here, but you just believe that Game 7, Donovan Mitchell's a guy who's been there. He could have enough to pull it out in that one-off game, but they're going to get swept in the next round anyway, even if they get through.
Yeah, but I think that on the point of Mitchell, sure, I think he's still going to show up, but I think we saw last night exactly what I thought it would look like by the end of the series is the Magic being able to be who they are night in, night out, and be that physical team, bring it to them every single game, out hustle them, out rebound them, get to the rim, and just really make their presence known. play shitty offense, but still be that team. And they can do that. They can do that for 3 series straight if they got through it. The Cavs are not built like that, and they showed it last night. And I think we'll see it again in Game 7. And it could come down to that. If Donovan Mitchell scores 60, sure, but he's got to score 60 because apparently 50 ain't enough. And I don't think that Garland is going to make a big change here to start scoring over this team. I think he can do better than what he did. I think we can see better from Mobley, but that's got to take a big change. And I think that they've not shown it. Like I said earlier about when we were talking about AD, Magic have done a great job to bring the action to Mobley and to really force him. Like, are you the best defender? I didn't know because I'm cooking you one-on-one. Franz Wagner taking Evan Mobley one-on-one off the dribble is unacceptable. Franz Wagner's a great player. I love Franz Wagner. Evan Mobley, a guy who should be a future defensive player of the year type of player, that is unacceptable. That should not be happening. And that's got to suck the confidence out of the Cavs to see their best defender out there getting cooked by Franz Wagner. And that can't continue if they're going to hope to win a Game 7 or do anything. Like, they're not doing anything against the Celtics. But again, I think the Magic, if they get what they deserve, which is they've earned this series, I think they would do a lot more to be entertaining and to give a lot more competition, physicality to the Celtics than the Cavs ever could.
Yeah, you don't earn it until you earn it. They don't earn it until they win that Game 7. But yeah, that's again that Game 7 is Sunday afternoon. I'll be honest. I'm hoping the Magic pull it out. I'm hoping we see a big game again from Wagner and from Banchero. But I'll still just favor the Cavs just because of Donovan Mitchell. I just believe in him that slight little bit more. But let's close it out then. Let's talk about the negatives of this first round of the playoffs. The Phoenix Suns.
What a great place to end.
Swept 4-0 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. A Minnesota Timberwolves team that we believed got the worst matchup they possibly could by having to face the Phoenix Suns.
"Quote unquote nightmare matchup." That was the headline. Nightmare matchup.
And it went the complete opposite way. That's growth from the Timberwolves, but also just crap from the Phoenix Suns. I mean, look what they had. They had no bench. They had no size. They had a Kevin Durant who was just completely disinterested in being out on the floor for that team. And it was just really ugly. And then like Bradley Beal in that game 4, he had 9 points and basically intentionally fouled out. Like, how he fouled out wasn't like he was challenging a shot or like an unlucky offensive foul. No, he just randomly ran back and reached in at a guy at half court to foul out. Like, that's this thing right here, and
you're saying he wanted out. He's like, I'm done.
Like that's what it looked like. Like, that's just it was pretty pathetic.
This accusation's getting crazy, Ronan.
And now you look at Phoenix and, well, you wanted to talk about this. Matt Ishbia came out and said that 26 of the 29 other teams in the NBA would take the Phoenix Suns roster, their situation in terms of coaching, their situation in terms of draft picks.
Yeah. Well,
is that
picks,
true?
He said draft picks. Just leave that out. Just situation.
He said the whole situation.
Picks?
He said the whole situation, their draft pick situation, everything. He said the whole situation, 26 of the 29 teams would take it.
They do have their pick this season, so I guess that's fair. And you can't lose a pick for being over the apron for multiple years in a row if you trade them away. Big brain. All right, let's go through it. Pistons, yes. Wizards, yes. Hornets, yes. Raptors?
No.
No.
Raptors wouldn't. Raptors believe they've got something in Scotty Barnes. They wouldn't do it.
Ronan, be honest with yourself. Devin Booker, stop. Stop it. Stop. 4. I'm vetoing you. That's 4. Nets. That's a funny one. Plus or minus. Hawks, yes. Bulls, yes. Heat?
No. Heat wouldn't do it.
I guess no. 76ers?
No.
So I guess we get to there. So we got 6 in the East. Definite. I think you can make an argument for most of the other ones. Blazers, yeah. Spurs. I mean, you got Wemby. But
Spurs absolutely not.
That's
Spurs
your
absolutely
Hardo.
not. Spurs zero chance of that.
Grizzlies? No.
No,
Jazz?
maybe.
Yes. I say Jazz would say yes.
Rockets? No,
I guess Rockets would say no. Warriors would say no.
no. Lakers with
Kings?
King. No,
If you asked the Kings last week. No.
I still think no.
Pelicans? No. Lakers? Yes.
No, they wouldn't.
Lakers? Yes.
No, they would not.
They want to just reset their stars. So I guess let's call that between 8 and 10. So I guess he's off by 16 teams, give or take. That's fair. That's fair.
And I'd still probably, I think I would disagree with you on a few more of them, but let's just move on. And now, like, just look at the Suns' situation they're in. It really feels like either they trade Kevin Durant or they run it back.
Run it back.
Those are the only two options. Like, don't get me wrong, it can be better. Sometimes you need a year to kind of figure it out, and then you run it back the second year, and it can be better. That could absolutely happen here. But if they like their only real option to make any sort of major change to this team is trading Kevin Durant, because they're not going to trade Devin Booker, and Bradley no trade deal isn't going anywhere. So I mean, like, can they figure it out a bit more? Is there going to be a few more guys they can get on better minimum deals? Are they gonna do they need to find that point guard? Is that point guard out there for them? I mean, they put themselves in the hole, and now they got to just own it.
The sad part is, if we really, really look at it, truthfully, were they a better team last year? Ayton, Chris Paul, Bridges, Cam Johnson. And I think you can also you take away from what Chris Paul is doing a bit and add that load onto Mikal Bridges. Let Mikal grow a little bit from what he's done. Let that internal growth happen. I think Mikal can still be who he is right now. And I think Mikal right now is kind of going through that period where I think you can cut off his workload by maybe 10%, and that's that perfect level. He's still a 20-point per game, like on-ball scorer and elite off-ball shooter. So just looking at that team, I personally think that team's better.
And they were a better team before, like when they made the Kevin Durant trade. They were better then. In that, obviously it was a short period, but they were better then than they are now too.
And are they more? And then another buyer's regret. Are they worse now with Bradley Beal?
Yes.
This is, I mean, it's crazy. Like they basically played 2K. They played 2K. They got 3 stars and said, let's figure it out. And they didn't have a chance to integrate any depth. Again, I keep saying it off air, on air, whatever. I still can't believe that they didn't have any internal growth from some of their young guys. Nasir Little, who's shown flashes of promise in Portland, just didn't exist in this situation. Josh Okogie, who had some awesome moments at the end of the season last year, just didn't exist for this team.
Needing to rely on that as well is bad in terms of team building too.
I think that's wrong though. I think that's so wrong, because like all the players we've mentioned throughout this hour and a half of all these awesome players, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, talking about like then your rookies over on the Heat. You think about what you've just seen from them. Look across, and then who was Derek White before? He was a late first round pick. Like, all these guys need to be given something in order to grow. And I don't look at a guy like Nasir Little and say, oh, that's not worth putting on the floor. I don't look at a guy like Josh Okogie and that he doesn't deserve a chance. And obviously,
such a tough situation to really thrive and grow in, though.
Yes.
It's so tough to give them opportunities. There's so much pressure on them any moment that they set foot on the floor. That's why it's an issue that you're gonna need, that they needed to rely on those guys, because it's not easy. They need to be in like an environment where it's okay if they don't play their best in every single game, or every minute is not so important. They needed, like, those are guys that still needed that little bit more wiggle room. But again, it just shows like going all in on offense doesn't work. Trying to buy championships does not work. This is a team sport. And the Suns are just another example of it's about the team. unless your team is a well-oiled functioning machine, unless you've got defense, unless you've got size, unless you've got depth, yeah, having the stars is great. But unless you've got all the important components, you are not going to be a successful team in the NBA.
Yeah. And let me say this though, like these are all negatives and these are all like where they went wrong. And one point I agree with Ishbia though is that their situation is fine because they have the building blocks. They have 3 elite scorers, and what is going to be tough is the financial piece of it. They have 3 elite scorers. They have one who is the best catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the league, Grayson Allen. I mean, it's a great place to start. Now you just need to find guys to fill out the rest. And unfortunately, you didn't build it from within. So you can't expect that all of a sudden your Nasir Littles and your Josh Okogis and your Damian Lees, that these guys are all of a sudden going to grow on your team because you didn't give them a chance to, and they're not going to. But I think if you find the perfect, like low usage, catch and shoot, play defense, that's it. Like you just need some very small additions there. You need the rebounding. If you can find that's the tough part. Finding the big guy. I hated Yusuf Nurkic's fit on this team. I think they needed to be more mobile. They needed a guy who was, yes, who can hold down the middle of the floor and rebound well, but they needed someone who could be an elite defender. And unfortunately, this is a point that I don't know I've heard too often, but where's the accountability on Kevin Durant for his role as a defender? Because he wanted to get back to winning like he did in Golden State. And what he did in Golden State was play defense.
Kevin Durant is a soft ass who's not a leader.
Fair.
That's facts. That's just the way it is with Kevin Durant. Like the way that his career has gone. Obviously, he left Golden State because they didn't say he was a god. They didn't say he was the whole reason they won all the championships. That's why he wanted to leave Golden
And
State.
Draymond Green said mean things.
And look where it's gone from there. Like Kevin Durant is soft. Kevin Durant is not a leader. When it suits Kevin Durant, he can be the best guy in the world. But more often than not, especially in these last couple of years, especially this year with the Suns, it's just seen him looking disinterested, not wanting the ball, not going, right, we need a win in the fourth quarter. Give me the ball. I know I'm the best scorer maybe in the world. I want the ball. I'll get us this win. He never does that. He doesn't. He's not. Maybe it's the injuries having the impact where he's not able to do it two-way anymore. But at the end of the day, like Kevin Durant he's a soft ass, and since he's left Golden State, it's just been bad season after bad season. Bad luck involved in that as well with some of his teammates, but he hasn't shown enough of what he obviously believes himself to be. And like looking like at it now, like obviously it hurts these last few years, but I have him at this moment all time scrapping in top to get into top 15. I think I could put a lot of guys above him all time.
We're back to where's Kevin Durant all time.
Don't have to go too deep into that. I just wanted to make that point.
Another year doesn't help. It's true. I love the Kevin Durant back to Warriors, back to Thunder. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Well, they have the draft picks to make it happen.
That's what I'm saying.
If they want it. What about Frank Vogel then? Should he stay or should he go?
If I'm Frank Vogel, I mean, where else are you going to coach? To be frank, and I think that again, I think
maybe the Lakers will take him back.
That's the funny part, right? But I don't know. I don't know where they go from here in terms of coaching, but it's not a coaching problem. It's not a coaching problem. They did their best. I mean, I thought some of they had the right game plan in mind for Ant. They just didn't have the personnel to execute. They didn't have the bigs to execute. Drew Eubanks sucks. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Drew Eubanks. Obviously, you're not gonna hear this, but like I hate Drew Eubanks. I don't know why. He's just one of those players that just like the way he plays, just the way. Some people hate Mo Wagner, and I feel like it's like that same vein of player. I love Mo Wagner, so I don't understand why I don't like Drew Eubanks. This is just my opportunity to say it out loud. I was very upset that he got time and Thad Young did not. I'll just say that much. Okay. But on the whole, like where are you turning to as a coach? And that's where things need to change from a perspective of what kind of players you need to get in here. But yeah, it's going to be a long off season. Definitely more conversations on it. But I think that he should probably stay.
I think,
The grass is greener. It's not
I
his
think they
fault.
should keep him around. I think they're worth like a rebuild again. What they can do with vet minimums and possibly some trades and stuff like that. I think he deserves another year at it. What about the Bucks then? Finish it out here.
They're fine. They're even more so do nothing. Well, I think Pat Connaughton's time is done. I've had enough of Pat Connaughton on the Bucks. He's such a beloved player there for what he's done. And he's constantly such a good role player for them. But he doesn't get it done enough on the offensive end. And they need someone to take his place to space the floor a bit better and be a better two-way player. Just a small example.
Put it here like this. So Jay Crowder, Pat Bev, Malik Beasley are their three major free agents. Do you bring any of them back?
I keep Malik. I think that Beasley's he's a streaky enough shooter. We know his limitations as a defender. We know that you want to limit his minutes next to Dame. And I don't think that precludes him from having a role in this team's success moving forward because it's tough. It's so easy when we say, oh, just use vet minimums to find shooter. Like where? Like Malik Beasley's probably going to be, if he's just hitting the free agent market, he's probably going to be the best, if not one of the best shooters that you can just have on a cheap contract. That's not going to be an easy find.
Can they figure out a way to get a bit more youthful, a bit more high energy? Is there a pathway for them to be able to do that this offseason?
I mean, you've seen that time and time again from look at the Spurs, like what the Spurs are able to do to find late first round picks to use those, and you can buy second round picks. Look what the Nuggets have done as one of the best teams in the league using second round picks, like a guy like Peyton Watson who's going to make serious strides here and really play big minutes. A guy like Christian Braun who does that, and that just is based on your organization, how good their scouting is. There's always going to be players like that. It's just finding them. The Heat, great example as well. So through the drafts, that's probably their best bet. Is Beauchamp able to grow a bit this year? Like he's a guy that's shown flashes. I like what he's done there. Jackson, not sure. He's an athlete. He's not shown me as much as Beauchamp, even though Beauchamp's not as consistent. I think that their situation right now is bleak in terms of youth on their roster, but at least got to give them a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And in all honesty, the biggest worry you have as being the Bucks as an organization is just that, not just the fact that they're still paying three coaches and they're probably thinking about adding a fourth onto that, but more that is Giannis's body starting to break down. This is 2 years in a row. And then he's been hurt.
Last year was kind of freakish, though.
Yeah, that's fair, but he was also hurt.
It wasn't a wear and tear issue. It was like a knee hyperextension.
Yeah, that is fair, but it's 2 years in a row where like when they needed the most, he was hurt, and that can bring in an element. I'm not saying trade Giannis or they need to blow it up, but like that's kind of the only thing.
Are you worried about his load?
A little bit, yeah.
No, I'm not, because if Chris Middleton is healthy over the summer, which I mean should just get more healthy. Dame, same thing. I think you got alternatives, and they have one of the most creative offensive coaches in the league in Doc Rivers to help them figure out how to take the load away from Giannis.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Well, yes, I got that.
That's a joke.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But obviously, we're here, and obviously, people are calling for them to Stephen A. Smith team trade Dame. He's not happy there. All that. I think that's all. That's all a load of crap.
He's not.
I think he's
not happy because he's going through a divorce. People, I hate how that got brought up throughout the year, and it's like really sad that he's like going through this really tough family time. People are like, oh, he's not happy because he's like in Milwaukee. It's like, no, he's not happy because he's going through like personal stuff.
I expect Milwaukee to really be that team that figures it out in the second year.
Yeah,
I think that's I have a lot of faith in them being that team that's able to do that. I will definitely say that. I don't think they don't need to panic. They don't need to do anything rash. I think they have a really strong opportunity to figure it out in year two.
Yeah.
Final point for today. Will Jimmy Butler leave the Miami Heat?
No. No.
And
Why? Why would he leave?
that
Who would take him?
will no, like he apparently wants the max 2-year extension.
They would do that.
You think they're gonna do that? Okay.
They would do that. If Jimmy Butler is healthy next year, you get growth from Jovic and Jaquez, and they, I mean, they always bring in somebody. Like there's always going to be growth from somewhere. So I think that they will continue to enjoy being this competitive team, and like they can argue every year that Jimmy Butler holds breath that they could sneak back into the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals.
Like I still think like Boston would have won this year, but it would have been interesting to see what both Rozier and Butler, what difference they could have made.
Yeah.
As guys who can create their own shot, who can create well for others.
Yeah, they didn't have that extra punch, and that could have been a big difference maker. And we've seen how like the Heat can always surprise with different advantages, and they just didn't have enough cards to play. That's what it was. They played their deck. They didn't have anything left, and that's just because of unfortunate injuries.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that concludes our round one fallout. Oof. We made it. It was a long one, but there was a lot to get to, and there's still so much more that's going to happen in the semifinals. We got exciting series in the West. We got probably just one exciting series in the Eastern Conference. Sorry to the Cavs and Magic. I don't think you're going to do anything against Boston, but still a lot of basketball to be played. Still a lot of great moments to happen, and when they do, we will be here to cover it all for you. But for today, thank you so much for listening. Chris, thank you for joining me as always. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA, and most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.